Today I'm going to talk about the concepts of spiritual romanticism and not being a spiritual zombie, but really following your own truth and following your own path. And what is the place for spirituality in young people's lives today? Let's get it.
Yeah. I'm inspired. I'm inspired.
Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Sumet Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. Well, a question was asked by Abhinandak, and it says, I like some of your presentations. Your motivation for doing them is really good. Can you please make a video about what is the place of spirituality in today's young people's lives? Most of these religion businesses lead to what I call too much spirituality, spiritual romanticism, which I think destroys one's individual potency, playfulness, and liveliness, and makes a kind of spiritual zombie. Can you make a video regarding this? It'll be very helpful, okay? Yes, of course, I would love to help. So, what is the place of spirituality in young people's lives in the 21st century where, so many ideas are out there, okay? And this new age spirituality trend is taking over, as well as certain indoctrination, or you could say, ideals or ideologies that keep people confined and can even create a sense of obsession or this kind of urge towards escapism, using the spirit to escape. The spirituality isn't some kind of a crutch. Spirituality is a tool. Understanding that these are, of course, my own ideas through my own experiences. Experience is the best teacher. Therefore, I'm just speaking from my perspective, obviously.
By the way, guys, I got this orgonite pendant today. It looks really cool.
At its most basic level, we see spirituality as something non-physical, okay? Non-physicality. So focusing on energies, focusing on things that we can't truly see with our naked eyes. So spirituality has no template. It has no higher governing body or higher power, unless, of course, you decide on that there is this higher, harmonious, divine order to things. It's an inner space maintenance for an external manifestation or a learning simulation, right, that we're a part of. This is Lila, this is the divine play. Can't put a butterfly in a jar. Can't put these concepts around such a boundary that from 4 to 5 I must do this, exactly like that. When you get to that kind of rigidity, it takes away your freedom, your flexibility, and isn't spirituality essentially trying to get you liberated, liberating your soul? So how can we take something that is so free and make it so captive, okay? So the advice that I have for people, number one, get away from false identification and labels, okay? Even if you're labeling yourself as a Buddhist or a Christian or whatever, right? You've got to understand what it means. Let's remove all the conditioning and dogma and just see it for what it is. Let's not attach labels to it to immediately put requirements over it and an understanding over it, because all spirituality is, isn't that just our way of dealing with our own ignorance? We don't even know what's going on, right? You are not your emotions, you are not your thoughts. That's another understanding that young people must have. A lot of people nowadays, they're run by their thoughts. They're run by their emotions. Spirituality is going beyond the ego, which means going beyond identification, beyond the I. So whenever you find yourself saying I or he, you're tapping into non-spirits. You're going into categorization mode. So it's interesting, sometimes people aren't even reacting to your spirit. People are reacting to the image that they have of you in their own minds. A lot of times thinking keeps people stuck in the past and the future. It is through feeling you can access the presence. So avoid blind following, okay, conformity. Avoid false prophets. Avoid pseudo-initiations and pseudo-rituals. What is a pseudo-initiation? Hazing someone to join a fraternity, okay? Now one could say from a specific angle, oh no, but it's spiritual. Is that really spiritual? When someone like Shaquille O'Neal comes along and says, Omega Psi till I die, doesn't that make you question that, okay, is this really something I've got to consider? Now, I have nothing against fraternities, but start to understand that This is a pseudo-initiation. So we see the walking dead all around us. Living dead people. People who don't have this lightness of being. Enlightenment, right? Meaning their lightness of their beingness. The core way to break down spirituality is care and connectedness. I also look at connectedness as compassion, which means to suffer together. Passion pati, kompati means to suffer together, okay? So we understand the Buddhist principle of suffering. This world is suffering, but we've got to non-attach to things in order to get to this level of almost maintenance of this spiritual unit. So the real master key is care, because care is underneath every single emotion. You're angry because you care about something. You're sad because you care about something, okay? What's the reason that people get addicted and get into this spiritual arrogance or this narcissism? They're attaching too much, okay? So this idea of attachment, you really got to understand the principle of Buddhism is impermanence, right? So hey, isn't spirituality kind of this mortal realization that, hey, we're all gonna die one day, we might as well, choose to make this life fulfilling or thrive in some way? This idea of romanticism, right? That there are these commandments, there are these laws that you must follow, okay? Love must look like this, or let's create some elements for you so you can understand this world better. But you see, when you give someone an external solution, it might work for that moment, it won't work for the long term. So what spirituality is saying is go inwards. A lot of people nowadays, they aren't going inwards. They're so distracted by the external that how are they possibly going to go internal? You see? So that's one thing I'd say is improve your focus, improve your concentration. I mean, what are you really doing in meditation? You're focusing on one thing, right? You're focusing on one thing. You're focusing on your breath. You're focusing on a mantra, okay? You're focusing maybe on a sound wave or a binaural if you're listening. You're focusing on the guided meditation's voice, right? So it's that focus on that one thing that really gives you this understanding of one, you, the self, and essentially by tapping into the self, you tap into no self. When you tap into no self or selflessness, you access the flow state. By accessing the flow state, now you have this potential or this gateway and this bridge into these unseen worlds, you could say, right? And from there, we're creating more space. And so when people are saying, oh, you lost or you won, these are all illusions. You're attached to something, something has that leverage over you. When there's no attachment, there's no leverage. You are fully free, which means you are fully liberated throughout this experience. For a truly spiritual individual, they understand that they've got to ride the waves of their emotions and thoughts and come back down to a baseline of their own understanding. I'd possibly consider people who are 25 and older to get into relationships, because relationships are, in a sense, this maturation chamber of your own personal growth and character development and spiritual development, if you've noticed. But you notice a lot of spiritual people, they cut themselves off from relationships. Let me cut myself off, let me self-isolate. Hey, it makes sense that through self-isolation, I mean, the whole point is connection, right? Of course, it is this divine connection or whatever, it's still a connection, right? And a lot of people, what addicts do is they cut themselves off from other people, right? They disconnect. And so really, a lot of people are addicted to spirituality. They're addicted to spirituality, and hey, I've done it too, man, right? Understand this. I didn't feel safe in my body, so I'd go into the spirit or the mind or these upper dimensions, upper chakras, whatever you want to call it, right? That's a big part of it. A lot of people, they don't feel safe. So it's about grounding yourself, not just in science and all this kind of stuff, pseudoscience, but rather than ground yourself in your own truth. Understand your own inner workings. No one else can describe that for you. I'm doing an ICF accredited course right now, right? And so in that course, in my mentorship course, they said that coaching is a structured approach to spirituality. And I thought that was really interesting, okay? Now, I'm really fond of this word, Eudaimonia, opposite of daemon, right? So eudaimonia is this idea of fulfillment, flourishing, okay, that long-term happiness. That is that spiritual growth if you really think about it. And you see a lot of these psychologists coming up with these different ideas to try and pinpoint this thing down through 6 dimensions of it. Now this is cool, right? We as people trying to understand something. And I think this kind of is one of the best descriptions of what it means to be spiritual in the 21st century, because you got to have your spirituality be effective towards actually making your life better, not worse. Okay? If your spirituality is causing your own suffering, then there's something wrong with that formula. So if you're floating up in the clouds and you can't bring yourself down, it's a problem. If you're just fully focused on the material world and you can't bring yourself up, that's a problem too. So we've got to be the bridge. We've got to be the sweet spots. The way showers are the bridge builders of these two worlds. If you think about awakening, isn't awakening a connection to reality? You awaken to the truth. But a lot of people treat awakening even as a disconnection. Oh, I'm awakened now. Oh, great. You've reached that level of the video game. Guess what? Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. You still got to do the same stuff. So it's really about experiencing this non-duality through your own lens, through your own framework, through your own understandings and experiences of life, right? You could go the Advaita route or the Hinduism route or the Christian route, or, go back to the perennial wisdoms and bring it back to Hermeticism, whatever you want to do, right? You have so many options here. It's like a smorgasbord. It's like an entire buffet. And if you go in there confused, you're not going to know what to eat. But a lot of people, they just trend hop. They just go from one spiritual concept to another. They don't finally decide, which means to cut. Cut out all other options, just choose one and go with it. And in fact, I've understood almost like, hey, what is the archetype that I'm wanting to create in this physical incarnation in reality? And let me create spiritual philosophies that are the underpinning or the foundation for these understandings. Working like this, I know it's still working with the image, but I'm very conscious that I'm doing it. If you're doing this process unconsciously, character development, you're going to get confused. You're going to feed your own ego to a point, right? Where it's just going to confuse you. It's just going to be like a self-preservation mechanism or a defense mechanism of protection rather than connection, which is what we're looking for. So one more thing I would say is know the difference between intuition and past conditioning, okay? You're thinking, oh, I'm intuitive, but it's your past conditioning running you still. So from a blank slate, from no mind, you can then create. Spirituality for you can be a good reset button, where the fish is free to roam in the ocean. It's not just in a fishbowl. Start to think about this, right? You're this spiritual, boundless being on this reality, and someone else is coming along and saying, follow my path, it's the right way. Someone else is coming along and saying, follow my path, it's the right way. No, there's only one right path, and that's your path. Don't get trapped in these ideas and dogmas and labels and all this kind of stuff, man. This is your journey. You are the choice point of your own life. Yes, there are other invisible forces. It comes back down to you. Not the eye, but the one watching before the eyes. If we take away everything, who are you? You are spirit. Zombies cannot feel alive because they're attached to old dogmas. They're attached to old understandings and ancient traditions so much that they're not being the creators. They're just the converts. Understand that in that state of spirituality, you are very vulnerable, and there is a chance that other people can come and put 1,000 dozen different ideas in your head when you're in that state. Really understand that. Once the slate is clean, people can come in with all sorts of stuff and just fill your brain with that stuff, okay? So you have to find out the truth for you. As we're combining our masculine and feminine polarities, the quest for freedom and the quest for love, and we fuse them together, this is what we're creating. The youth watching right now, if you were to really create a golden age for the future, You have to have self-sufficiency. See, you're not looking for anybody else for the solution to your problems. They're giving you guidance. You're still getting therapy. You're still going to your personal trainer. Okay, you have people helping you, but you're not bounded by these teachings so much that they start to eat up your soul. It's the intention and the agenda that you're coming from. What is your agenda with spiritual practice? Spirituality is just the glue that makes life more interesting. So let's look at the 6 dimensions of eudaimonia, okay? Personal growth, self-acceptance, positive relation with others, autonomy, environmental mastery, and purpose in life. This is a spiritual path in my eyes. Now, we don't need science to back it up. That's just something naturally we humans try to do, is understand through our ignorance and our lens of still trying to figure all this stuff out. As long as you're building these 6 dimensions, these 6 keys that open 6 doors, you understand a significant portion of what it means to live a good life. I think a good life is a spiritual life. It's not attached to the physical. After a certain point, you find that there's a piece missing. What about on the opposite spectrum? You only give yourself spirituality and just completely, take away my friends, take away everything else, There is a toxic thought process and a mindset for this, that I don't need anyone, I just need myself. Sounds like your ego is speaking, not your spirit there. And there's nothing wrong with developing a healthy ego either, right? It's like we're all here to learn. Purpose in life is an ongoing process, right? You don't have to have that one purpose. It's like your purpose shifts and it's dynamic. It's not a static thing. Your purpose is not static. It's a dynamic process. So it keeps expanding and adding to itself. It's like improv comedy. This is your divine play. This is your Lila. So have fun. When you're exploring the spiritual world, it can be overwhelming. Embrace the unknown. Embrace your truth. Have an amazing day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. Hit that subscribe button. I hope this video helped you.